Good afternoon, everyone. Greetings from Accra. Over the last 2 decades, the V20 suffered wealth destruction of more than $500 billion due to climate change. The CVF and V20 commissioned this Climate Vulnerability Monitor third edition research project in order to make available a comprehensive data bank on the estimated future impact of climate change based on the latest scientific evidence and intergovernmental panel on climate change scenarios. Even if we can perfect methods in future, we need to know what the numbers are showing us in order not only to prepare, but also to take action. The findings confirm the global injustice of the climate crisis, of which we were already aware, that those hardest hit are also those least responsible for and least equipped to tackle the crisis. The Climate Vulnerability Monitor also shows the extent to which the negative impacts will grow as we close in on 1.5 degrees Celsius, as well as how significant the avoided impacts will be versus higher levels of warming. We hope that the world will pay attention and use and act on the findings of the third edition of the Climate Vulnerable Monitor. Thus, the third edition of the Climate Vulnerable Monitor shows that the world should brace itself for rapid escalation in climate shocks. As 1.5 degrees centigrade is reached in the coming decade, we must prepare for the following impacts. An 8.5% projected global increase in human exposure on days of very high or extremely high wildfire danger. A 350% increase in the number of vulnerable people exposed to heat waves, and consequently some 5 trillion more person-hours of heat stress risk each year. And 12% of areas with no historic malaria suitability becoming new malaria transmission hotspots. The risks are piling up and economies need to be ready. Data and science points to the fact that inflation will be up by 66% if we breach 1.5 degrees centigrade. Inflation continues to disproportionately penalize V20 communities and economies that are still struggling to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic's direct and indirect shocks. Climate-fueled risks have driven up the cost of capital and debt to unsustainable levels, especially across climate-vulnerable economies, thus worsening financial protection gaps. In order to safeguard the 1.5 degrees centigrade safety limit of the Paris Agreement, it is critical that we commit to doubling funding for adaptation and also ensure the availability of prearranged finance. Such funds must be disbursed quickly and reliably before or just after disasters happen. We must resolve to expand instruments of adaptation and financial protection for governments, communities, businesses, and households. These will lower the impact of climate change, make vulnerable countries' economies more resilient, safeguard sustainable development, and protect lives and livelihoods of poor and vulnerable people. We therefore welcome the leadership of Germany to launch the Global Shield for Climate Risk next week in Sharm el-Sheikh. As we listen to the scientists today, I pray that it inspires in us a fierce sense of urgency to develop innovative protection instruments to uphold our common humanity and to protect all of us against the ravages of climate-fueled risk. Thank you.